He's all right, yeah.
Angus,
Yes.
you know what to do. Clap us in. Welcome along to the Whisky Stories Podcast at the Rosebank Distillery! Oh, listen, lads, we've managed to do it again.
Yeah, we've got a packed pod. There's 5 of us on. This
Exactly.
is one more than usual,
It's
anyway.
another Friday that we've managed to wangle ourselves into a distillery. And, wow, what a distillery we are. And we're here with Claire and
The Rosebank Peaky Blinder.
we've got friend of the pod, we've got Vikki Elliott come back to say, it's a day off for you, Vikki, is
It's a
it?
day off, it's my holiday.
It's a busman's holiday for Vikki, she's come back at her
Nowhere else
work.
I'd rather be, I'm delighted.
Oh, great to see you here. We've got Claire here as well from the Rosebank. Claire, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Happy to be taking part in this morning.
Well,
It's
thank
sprung
you.
on me this morning.
Thank you very much for first of all letting us in. We've got loads and loads of fun stuff going on today, and you're going to be taking us around the Rosebank Distillery. Angus, we got the train this morning about
We did.
8:36 train or something.
8:36, and we were here before, within the hour.
Yes, exactly.
From Edinburgh.
Yeah,
so-
jumped on the train at Haymarket, Ross. A nice wee coffee at Starbucks to get us going,
It's an early morning for me. But it's brilliant to be here because Ian McLeod have been such massive supporters of the podcast already.
Yeah.
And so to come and do the brand homes, we know that you guys want more distillery content as well. So to come to an old, new distillery, this would be really genuinely quite eye-opening and different.
Well, Vikki, you were on the podcast before you were working for Ian McLeod Distillers.
Came with Rosebank New Make.
Yeah, but
On the second
before that,
no,
Vicki's first ever time on the
first
podcast.
episode, you're right.
So I think it was us that got you the gig, wasn't it?
It was
Through us, but I mean, this is a nice wee full circle for you because I remember like you talking on the podcast about how you loved your whiskey and you followed the podcast, which is great. You've been really active in but saying about how you enjoy just all the whiskey chat, and then I think you'd mentioned about you wanted to get a job in whiskey. You live quite locally. You saw this distillery reopening and you went, I want to work in there. And you got a job, didn't you?
Yeah, we all went for the interview process, and then next thing we were both
Well, we're all
successful. We had our interviews in here before the building was even open, which was amazing. I was buzzing for it. We got a tour, and there was still pretty much a lot of construction going on as well, but then we were successful. I got a job as a DA in here.
Brilliant.
I was here all the way until October last year, and then I'm up at head office now.
Amazing.
In the head office,
Right.
eh?
I'm still here.
And so Claire, how long? So you've been here since
I've
day
been
one?
here since day one as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and end of May. No, end of April last year started.
Yeah.
So I've been here. I knew nothing about whiskey before I started here.
Right,
Found
brilliant.
a passion for it. So.
Yeah, and like you say, being able to be so accessible must be huge for you guys because we jumped the train, headed through. It was 30 minutes, half an hour.
Yeah, less than 40 minutes.
40 minutes on the train, got here, and then.
It's my second time here this month. That's how easy it is to
Aye,
get here.
and I believe Jake Adcock picked us up, which I believe he does for all the group tours. He
does, yeah, he does.
If you quote we're going to give you a wee treat. If you quote the discount code that you'll get at the end of this video, if you quote another discount code, Jake Adcock will pick you up from the train station.
He operates a shuttle service.
The shuttle service, but it's great. Look, we've got mash tuns behind us.
We do.
We've got Oregon pine washbacks. We've got worm tubs over there. I'm really excited,
It
Claire.
doesn't look like a distillery from where we are.
No.
does it?
No, it looks like you said when we came in. It looked like a Bond villain's lair. It's like kind of the gate opened for us, and it kind of
Gordon Dance is going to be sitting there as we're doing the interview with stroking a white cat. Like, yes, Mr. Bond.
For the people who don't know about Rosebank, we'll deep dive into the history.
Yeah.
Of course, it was a closed distillery that has reopened, as you've mentioned. So to get here, this is the new tour. This is the new look, new owners.
Yeah.
So
This was the top dresser, Angus.
Yeah.
It
When we
was,
spoke
yeah.
to Mike Brown, and what's really great about this is we've had Mike, we've had Jake, we've had Vikki on the podcast. Lots and lots of people from Ian McLeod Distillers have been great to us. And they've always said, like, anytime you want, come to the distillery, just let us know. We've never really pulled off. We've always kind of gone, do we pull that card? Is it a bit cheeky? But no, here we are. And I'm really excited to come
Absolutely,
around. So,
yeah.
Claire, lead us on. Where are we going next?
We're going to head up probably the malting station, and then we'll head up to the mill.
There we are then, guys. Behind us, we've got washbacks. Now, I'm going to do what Ross Barr normally does and go, Oregon pine washbacks.
I am excited.
Are we right? Are the Oregon pine washbacks, Claire?
Yes,
Douglas
Oregon
fine.
Brilliant. Now, what have we got here? Talk me through this situation then.
So we've got 8 washbacks. The reason we use the Oregon pine one is tradition. We're all about tradition at Ian McLeod Distillers. So we wanted to keep that. Lifebuoy has been washbacks, same as Tam do, so that's what we want to do. So we have 8 of them where the fermentation happens. takes about up to 72 hours of fermentation, so between 62 and 72 hours to go is that nice pretty flavour that we're looking for.
Did the original Rosebank Distillery have pine washbacks as well?
Yeah.
And where are we in relation to where the washbacks would have originally been pre-1993? Do you know?
Were you here?
I wasn't here then. I was only 4 years old then.
This is a mostly new building, to be
It's
fair.
mostly new.
Yeah.
I think it might be in a similar sort of area. Can you remember, Vikki?
It was different. The setup before it originally didn't make sense.
No,
It
like the
wasn't a
mill
good
was
flow
over
for
by
it.
the
Okay.
chimney.
Yeah,
That's the thing about restarting a distillery, having a modern approach. You can make it way more efficient.
They made it in mind for the tours as well.
Yeah,
So
of
it's a
course.
working distillery and for the tours. They were placed differently.
It's a bit
in
higgledy-piggledy, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
what
Like
we'll do is
the
we'll find
things were shaped of an ale.
Okay.
It's been a while. We'll find actually where they were originally.
Really?
as well.
Very
But what I would say is, for a tour, this is a great room because,
It's-
you know, quite often on distillery tours, you're in a very cramped room and you're kind of filing past one by one, squeezing kind of behind some very hot tubes of liquid.
Small,
Whereas
yeah.
in here,
It's
you've
really
got,
easy.
it's like open plan. You can go in and have a look. You can see everything.
It's really
it's
accessible
fantastic.
for wheelchairs as well, which
Yeah.
is what
Yeah.
we pride.
Yeah,
A
because we
wheelchair
came up a
user
ramp
can see
here,
it, yeah.
so
Yeah.
Wheelchair user can see everything. We
Yeah.
don't miss out on any of the experience, which is
and,
again,
and that's great because there's some distillery tours we've been on that are definitely not accessible.
No.
You know, you're up kind of stairs and down ladders.
But that's like what Vikki was saying, is like,
Yeah.
and Claire, is when this distillery would have been built the first time around, no
Yeah.
one was thinking about distillery tours.
No.
It wasn't part of like,
And also like the increased production level that comes with it. We've heard it so many times. Stephen Woodcock to name a name is somebody who's built a reputation and been able to strip back distilleries, rebuild them, and maintain distillery character. When we were up at the Glenmurray distillery, Angus, you know, them saying about, oh, well, that used to be over there, so we've had to move that over here. Because at the time you look back and say, when 100 years ago, who on earth came up with the idea to put that there? But one of the things that we've talked a lot about recently is whether a tour while production is on versus a tour while production isn't on. And up until this morning, we hadn't been on very many tours where there had been a bit of production. Recently we were at
That's right,
Glenmurray
yeah, we
and
were.
also up at Speyburn, which is a video going to come out very soon. But there was no production on. Now I liked it because you get to stick your head into places you wouldn't normally get to stick your head. You get to see things. However, walking into this room and getting that smell,
It's the smell, it's the hum of the still.
you miss it.
When I was here 4
I was
weeks
just
ago.
saying that, like, I
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
miss the smell as soon as you walk through those doors. And when we do part of the tour, after you get the video, the introduction video, you go through the doors clear and you are just hit with this thing.
However, I do agree, silent season is great to see
Well,
things you
well,
wouldn't normally see.
is that Jake Adcock just wandering around Rosebank? Jake, in you come, mate, in you come. Look at that. Jake here, Ian McLeod. Jake, in you come. So,
Blending legend, Jake Adcock.
aye, here he is now. I take it the most recent tour that you've picked up from the train station have been dropped off safely.
Someone said that they made it here fine, yeah.
Yeah,
Everything's going on just
brilliant.
well. Yeah.
So you don't work here specifically, Jake. You're here.
No.
You're here with us today.
Yeah.
Look, but we're just talking about the production level and stuff like that. Do you have much of an input on current Rosebank that's being made at this moment in time?
Honestly, no, we mainly just deal with mature spirit.
Yeah.
In terms of the actual production and all tweaks that are being made, we fully rely on distillery managers, their experience. So what was Malcolm and now into the new team, we let them sort of...
And in terms of the long-term plan for Rosebank Spirit, Jake, you're trying to recreate the old style.
To an extent,
Yeah.
obviously we want to pay homage to what Rosebank's always been and keep that very unique style, that triple distillation, worm tub, you know, the sort of juxtaposition between the thick and the heavy at the same time.
Yeah.
We want to pay homage to that, but still do it the way we always do things,
Yeah.
you know.
And with regards to then legacy stock, that's something you probably have a little bit of access to. Do you have an indication of what's the oldest Rosebank cask that you've maybe seen or had a look at?
The oldest, probably an 18.9, I think, is
18.9,
probably the older stuff that we
So it
have.
really is the last few years that
Yeah,
you've getting
so
right.
kind of 89 to 93 is
Yeah.
where we're
Yeah.
looking.
Because I mean, historically, Claire, like, you know, it was Rosebank wasn't a big name dram, was it? You know,
Flora and fauna.
Flora.
Yeah, the flora and fauna, but of course it was mostly used for blending. You've got to consider who owned it previously.
But
as well.
a lot of people used to say was, from people locally, I think, we've talked about it, is people used to say it was just a hoose dram.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
us,
You
you
used
know,
to be able to buy it in the butchers along the street.
Yeah.
It was just
That's
common
it.
to be able to pick it up in any shop locally.
And
for
ultimately,
quite a cheap price.
It's a really-
My dad was telling me he used to have a bottle of Rosebank. He lived on a street in Edinburgh, Rosebank Cottages, so he had a bottle of Rosebank in the 1980s.
Yeah.
just a standard dram.
a standard
And
dram,
now, of
yeah.
course, it comes with now the razzmatazz of a closed distillery that you can't get stock anymore, and now people are actively looking to get hands on bottles. But you get, like, one of the great things about the tour, which we're going to really look forward to, is you get to try it as well on the tour. So you're getting to try history and what's going to be real. I mean, how far off are we from? I mean, it's new make spirit at the moment, but how long?
2 years old.
Yeah, it's just turned 2
years old.
on the 18th of July, so another year
But
for
something
officially
tells me
whiskey.
I would be shocked if you released it at 3
no.
years old.
So would
There's no
I.
way.
Yeah.
We don't know when.
Yeah.
It's a big
That's
step
up
though.
to Jake and the team to decide when that's going to be
100%.
bought.
It's an interesting point. What Rosebank was, what the expectation of Rosebank, the Rosebank that we're trying now that is getting rebottled from the old distillation is far and above better and bigger and bolder and very different to what the expectations maybe even of those casks were. Also, the decision was made. You had a couple of Lowland distilleries owned by Diageo, and that was it. One has to survive, one has to close. Glenkinchie Hill's a fantastic distillery.
Yeah, one built by yourself, one not.
But to have Rosebank reopen now, it's totally different and it's far more exciting than it would have been if this was the old Rosebank still going. We mentioned the tours. I don't want to interrupt. How many tours are you doing, Claire? And how many people?
How many different experiences?
How often are the tours? How many people can
they're
come
on
on
all
these tours?
day. So the first tour starts about 10:30, and then they go right through to the last tour can be a coach tour at the 4:15.
How many people?
Each tour can take up to 14 people. We can push that boundary if need be. And then you've got coach tours which can bring in 44, 57.
Because that was a noticeable
today
thing.
there's 3 bus tours of 40 odd people.
Wow.
So
Jake's bringing all them in himself.
Yeah, you're picking them all up. So we're getting people are coming from all over the world as well.
Yeah.
So I think today there's 2 coach tours from America and Canada and
Brilliant.
things like that coming to see.
And how can I book a tour? Just go online? Because I saw a couple just turning up and asking about tours.
Yeah, you can turn up and ask, and if we have space, obviously a weekend's going to be busier. The chances of us being able to book you on is a bit smaller.
Yeah.
But during the week, if you walk in, there's a chance we can maybe get you on a tour. But book online, it's so straightforward. You just pick your date, pick what tour you want to do. There's different experiences, different price ranges.
And we kind of skipped ahead a little, going straight to the Oregon Pine because I was just so excited. But why don't we go and look at another couple of pieces of equipment?
I've only just started doing a lot more distillery tours, Ross. I think if you remember when we were on the drive up to the Dornoch grand tour that we did, we were talking about how many distillery tours we'd each done. I think that was coming up for Tomatin was going to be my second ever distillery
and I think
tour.
that was always
Which is
because-
crazy, really, when you think about
You
it.
mentioned your father had meant, once
I
you've
think
seen
there were-
one, you've seen them
There
all.
were preconceived notions, I think.
Well, there is.
Yeah.
And to be honest, that is from the outset. That's what's amazing about whiskey is it's all done the same way.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to turn up at a distillery and see something
Radically different.
There's going to be stills. There's going to be washbacks. There's going to be a mash tun. But one thing there's always is a sugar box, right? And it's something that over the last few months since we've been doing all these more tours, you go in and I'd never even heard of the sugar box situation, right? And then someone's come along with this contraption which you've got there, Vikki. Now, what is this?
So this is a grist grader, and this is how the production team will make sure that they've got the right ratios of the grist.
So this is once the barley comes through the mill, it comes out as grist, which is like a kind of pseudo flour, isn't it? It's
so
like
a mixture
it's
there.
part flour and all the other good stuff.
Look at that.
You've got the husks, you've got the grits, and then you've got the flour. So what they do
go a bit
is,
less.
Angus, this one has got you all
This has
over
got
it.
me all over it.
So just before we sugar,
Aye.
we'll mention the mill.
Yes, let's talk about the mill
The
first.
mill we've got here is a bobby mill.
A bobby mill.
And Claire taught me something about 4 weeks ago that I had no idea, and it's one of those things that sometimes people do track their history. A lot of distilleries have their original mills still. We always hear about how they don't break, they're so well made. But this mill didn't start at Rosebank, did it, Claire?
No, it started in Port Ellen on Isle of Islay.
Okay.
So Rosebank got this mill in 1936. Obviously it worked up until the distillery closed, and it lay here while the distillery was closed for 24 years. So this is the only original piece of equipment we have from old Rosebank
It's brand
that still
spanking.
works.
It looks brand spanking
It
new.
was green when we found it.
But what's cool about that then is that every bit of barley that came through and made the original Rosebank is going through the same piece of equipment today
Yeah, which is
as it
incredible.
did then.
Great
And
point, well
so
made.
this
Head of good points.
came from Port Ellen in 1937. So how long further back does the history of this mill go?
We're
or
not sure, but we
sure?
do estimate it to be over 100 years old.
That's amazing, eh?
And they don't break.
They don't break down. It needs a little bit of care.
So
when Port Ellen reopened, they didn't make you an offer about getting this
No,
mill
no,
back,
no.
or
They weren't
not
getting
for
it back
sale.
anyway,
no.
even if they did.
Right,
So,
Angus,
right,
sugar box time.
I think it's time for me to sugar. Well, yeah.
It's time to sugar.
You take a wee sample here.
Uh-huh.
And pop the
Right, so
lid
you
on.
just stuck that in there, Vicky.
And is that, if I was working in production, that's about how much I
They
would.
would take 100 grams.
100
That
grams.
They would actually measure it out and
Okay,
take 100
I'll-
grams.
And then you want to
Hold it like this?
and then shake. And 2 minutes.
2 minutes of that.
2 minutes of shaking. Oh, this is more than I bargained for. Am I being timed? So,
Yeah, that's 10 seconds, Angus.
no. I'll give it the full 2 minutes.
Right.
That's all right.
How does it feel, Angus?
It feels, it's quite light, and it just, keep
That's
the
20
motion going.
seconds, Angus.
How's the technique? Is it all right?
Yeah.
A little bit more. I need
A little bit more. Okay. Give it a bit more welly.
Your hips aren't really getting moving there.
Yeah.
2
You need to
seconds.
get the hips
Keep
involved.
sugaring. Keep
This
sugaring.
is our first minute of the podcast.
What are we going to find out by sugaring?
You're just going to find out if you've got the correct ingredients here. And
So-
what happens if it's not correct, they'll be able to adjust it through the mill.
Yeah.
There's these tiny wee millimetres there, and
Uh-huh.
they can do the adjustments.
So if it comes out and there's too much in the bottom, that means it's too fine, doesn't
So
it?
it'll be too much flour, and that could affect the water at the end of the day. So it's got to make sure that
Keep going, Angus.
Don't want too much.
That's about 30 seconds now. You've only got a minute and a half to
I
go.
can safely say I never make anybody do this for 2 minutes.
I reckon you're probably fine.
I think you'll be
we're-
good now.
right, for the purposes of the podcast, I think we're fine.
So you can
So
see
what
now-
we've got here,
Okay.
Right, so we've lost a little bit of there, so you can take that layer
That's your
off.
husk. That is your 22% husks here.
yeah, because this is what we've heard about, is you want certain percentages at certain levels, don't you, ideally?
Here is your grits. So that is your 68% through there. Put that back in here. Of
And then
Mister.
finally-
And then this is your 10% flour.
Yeah.
And
And,
that's-
you want it to be 10%.
Yes.
If you found out there was more than 10%, oh, big problem. Less than 10%,
Yeah.
Yeah,
oh.
it'll affect the
Process.
sugars you're going to
Yeah.
get, which is then going to affect the yield of alcohol you're going to get. So,
Right, so it goes in there. And then where does it go?
and the big grey box right behind me.
In the big grey box there.
I like to call that. It's not very exciting compared to everything else in here.
And then it goes into the mash tun.
Into the mash tun.
How big's your mash tun?
3.2 tons.
Yeah, 3.2 tons.
Oh, you almost have the
3.2.
confidence, Vicky.
Yeah, 3.2 tons.
And is it a louter, semi-louter, or?
Semi-louter.
There you go.
You're
There you
good.
go. Right, can anyone tell me the first distillery to install a louter system? mash tun?
Absolutely, I can. That would be.
I'll give you a clue. Truck care banged his head on it.
It would be. It is Tomatin.
There you go. Yeah, look at that,
I
Ross.
did absolutely. I was really confident in it.
I was on the tip of my tongue. I was.
When I was always so proud of the
But
tea.
no, because it began with T. I just had Tamdu in my head, and then I had to think. Yeah.
Right.
no.
Charles Kerr's
And
got
then
a
it
bit of
goes,
scalp left on
it goes from the mash tun into these washbacks
Yeah.
that we've just seen, and
Oregon.
then where does it go?
Into the stills.
Right, let's go see some stills. Right, okay, the still house, Claire. This is where a lot of the magic happens as
Yeah,
well.
this is what defines Rosebank as being Rosebank. This is where, as you said, the magic happens.
Yeah.
And
So,
see-
oh,
Sorry.
Ross, go
It's
ahead.
very noisy in here because we are in production. There's 3 stills.
Yeah.
Triple distilled.
Triple
Yes.
distillation.
And
Tell-
one of the things is there's a clip if you go back on our Instagram. I've never seen somebody so passionate about copper contact than Vicky as she spoke about. But one of the things I remember you saying is when I look at these 3 stills, the back one is smaller than the front 2. And what you explain the reason for that, Vicky, because I remember correctly how I remember you telling it on the podcast.
Because they're all different shapes.
They're all
three of them.
different shapes, and they'll all have different purposes for the different shapes. You'll find out if you went to Glenfarclas, but they were very short and stumpy.
Yep.
Our second one, our intermediate still, is very tall, it's very elegant, so you are actually going to get a lot of copper contact to this one. But Malcolm Rennie quite rightly said when they were putting them in that it doesn't make any sense. The middle one should be the last one, and the shorter one should be your intermediate still, but it works. That's what they did in the past, and they honoured it. So they got the blueprints of the old stills, and they just replicated it. They made it bigger for bigger production reasons, but they replicated it.
Now,
So why is that? Sorry, 2 seconds now. Why is that back one smaller than the other two then?
The back one's got the top cut off
Yeah.
to fit into the roof, basically.
Yeah.
That's the original story.
Yeah.
So again, we didn't want to touch with that. It could be the copper contact, all those beautiful vapours going up and bouncing against the flat top. We don't know.
Yeah.
Again,
But why
that
don't
was
change
very-
it?
that was-
Because
yeah.
as I understand it, the original stills were mothballed here until about 2028, 2020.
Something like
2008, they were stolen.
And they were stolen.
Yeah.
So they were kind of, presumably they were cut up and sold and
Yeah,
disappeared,
somebody
melted
came
down.
in. It was between Christmas and New Year when high-vis vests, hard hats, just looked like workers.
But-
and,
So there wasn't around about 2008, 2009. There wasn't another distiller just popping up somewhere. Wait a minute.
Copper in the Falkirk
There's even some
Gardens.
bar in Scotland
But-
with 3 stills in it. Or something
Yeah.
like that.
But these stills then, all brand new, all purpose built,
Yeah.
but to the same design
yeah,
as...
we got the blueprints. We made them exactly the
Amazing.
same,
But-
which is incredible.
But what I will ask is one of the things we've seen earlier, and Ross has already mentioned it, because as Ross, a phrase that Ross will use, gets his tail wagging, or wowzers, as he often says on these distillery tours, is that still there has a window in it.
Yes. Very rare.
Now,
Still.
Very-
yeah. Now the spirit still have it. Ross, you've mentioned before. You can see we've seen it a lot. You maybe have like windows up at the top end with lights
Yeah,
flashing
yeah,
in,
for production
so that the
reasons,
production team can see when it's bubbling up and what have you. But to have a, you're saying it's very rare to see a window.
Only new distilleries, and a couple of new distilleries have done kind of clear doors on their stills. But I've
Yeah.
never been able to see into the bottom of a still while it's going before.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Really
It's
cool.
must affect copper contact. So what I would say is, as much as these are replicas of the old distillery,
Yeah.
I can guarantee you the old distillery did not have that glass
Not have a
window.
window in it.
No, but it's only a small glass
It's
window.
only a small
And
window.
also, the thing that's really interesting to me is that wash still. It is, if you want to talk about interesting line arms, which I do,
Yep.
that is a funky line arm.
Yeah.
And it's because of that flat top. We'll get a wee still or whatever,
Yeah.
but that's, you know, in terms of interesting line arms, Rosebank for me is right up there.
Yeah.
So we
And
mentioned...
Glengarry. Well, you've mentioned you
Glengarry's so dramatic.
you put the Glengarry line arm in your 7 wonders of the whiskey world.
Yeah.
Is one of the
Honestly, this could easily be a wonder of the whiskey world, because wowzers,
It is
very
a-
interesting line.
So we mentioned triple distillation, so all the spirit going through each still that we have here.
Yeah.
How unique is that in Scotch whisky?
Well, there's only
Very unique.
one other distillery in Scotland which
Is
uses
that
different
Mortlach
styles.
that does 2.8?
Mortlach is
Auchentoshan.
Auchentoshan.
Auchentoshan, right.
Auchentoshan's the other
And
one.
then you've got Springbank do their Hazelburn triple distillation.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Okay.
as far as I
So
know, I
there's
think that's
not...
Yeah.
It's not unique, but it's quite rare
It's
then for
very
triple
rare.
distillation.
But what makes it even more rare is the triple distillation with the worm tub condensers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the true
So
difference.
what does triple distillation do to the spirit then?
It helps to refine the spirit even more. It
So
does
you get a
make it
more
bit
delicate spirit? Or...
more delicate, but also stronger. So it'll come out about 77%. Is that
77, yeah.
correct?
Wow.
And is that your
That's
cask filling strength,
No,
or
no,
you cut that down?
63.5.
Right.
It's 63.5.
Yeah.
Taking it down, yeah.
But what is interesting, it's a very good point, Angus. Triple distillation, we think of Irish whiskey.
Absolutely,
we think of softer,
yeah.
smoother, that kind of shorter finish.
Yeah.
But adding the worm tub, so you're making a lighter, you know, easier spirit, and worm tubs adds viscosity
Yeah.
and texture, and
Well-
so they're producing a light spirit to then make it heavier.
Well, the thing is, an episode,
It makes sense.
the episode
It
that
really
we did
doesn't.
with Craig Johnson, one of the things, it's the first time I've really heard somebody on the podcast. There might be a question for Jake later on as well, but he talked about, like, when he was talking about the production and you're looking at the spirit style, saying what part of the tongue you're hitting it as well.
Yeah.
Is it front of the tongue or does it hit the back of the tongue? And can you get a unique spirit that when matured gives you a sort of front end and back end on it? Would that be something that, because I've not drank enough Rosebank, and I'm looking forward to
enough.
Well,
having
we'll
some.
change that today.
But is that what Rosebank would do? Does it? I mean, did you know if is it a front facing, hit the front of your tongue and then go to the
I've
back?
also not drank enough Rosebank, but what I'll say is, I think when we talk about historical regions,
Yeah.
Rosebank fit into the historic interpretation of Lowland whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's floral, it's light. So even though they're adding texture, they're producing a spirit that was easy drinking, same as Oppentauschen do now.
Yeah.
But that's why they were saying it was a top dresser malt, for the blends as well. You can lend it to that kind of lightness, that delicate, the fruitiness from it, the floral as well, but it's got weight to it. The blenders would want that little bit weight. They don't just want like a wishy-washy light kind of lowland. They want that depth of weight. Yeah. It's more of a texture thing. I don't know if
it's like it fills your entire mouth.
Yeah.
It's like to me, when I tasted it, it was like a whole explosion going on.
Well, that's what you're
so
looking
much
for.
going on.
Well, that's what Craig.
Again,
That's what Craig Johnson talked about. Was he said like because he was the master blender for
Famous Grouse.
And he's saying like when you're looking for recipes, and bearing in mind the thing that really blew my mind was the recipes that blenders use aren't, X amount of milligrams of this particular type of this distillery, because sometimes it's all down to what you can get your hands on.
Yeah.
So what they're looking for is actually spirit style and type, mouthfeel, and what it does at different ages. So instead of saying like, it can only be a Tamdu, it can only be a Mortlach, or it can only be an Oban. It's like, no, it's got to be like this, and it's all about the texture, the mouthfeel, the flavour profiles that you get. So if you're a top dresser, and the way that the spirit is, it must have been very unique, so that blenders can say it has to be Rosebank that goes in, because it's only Rosebank that we can stick on top to make it that level.
That's a really good point, and it makes me think, why would they choose to close this one?
But then you look at it.
Because you could argue the spirit is more interesting, and the design of the new make is more interesting than Glencairn
But then
is.
could it be the fact that maybe
just
somebody?
scale. I think
Well, that
it's
was it.
scale.
Somebody's looked at
I
it.
mean, we've got a canal on one side, a road on the other. There was no way to
You're boxed
expand the
in,
distillery. You're kind of boxed in. So I think
They knew they can get Ross Barr back into Glenkinchie to build more of it.
Aye.
Right, Ross, what have we got here?
This is Rosebank New Make.
There we go, straight from the still, Angus.
Absolutely, yeah. Claire was just...
Gave you a glass and you just dumped your...
Exactly. No, I was going to say Claire was just unlocking the spirit safe and...
No, interesting. Again, that light, fruity, floral nose that we expect and that was spoken about. But also the nose already has almost a weight to it, as we just spoke about with the worm tops.
So what are we expecting here then, Claire?
So you should get those light floral, fruity notes. Some people describe it as being quite grassy as well. But again, as you said, there's that kind of weight and complexity to it as well, especially on the palate.
Angus, what do you reckon?
Lovely. On the nose, like you said, super floral. But then you get that kind of grainy maltiness on
get the barley.
You get the barley.
Are you not going to do that they were doing at Dornoch Distillery when we visit and just spitting it straight back out of the floor?
No, I was too scared to do that, Graeme. I just went in for the nose because I didn't.
And to be fair, he was tasting it on the distillery to measure whether it was ready or not. In the background here, we've got the Rosebank Premier Inn.
Yep.
That's got to have been part of the distillery.
That was one
before.
of our old warehouses. So when the distillery closed, it was a restaurant for a while and then Premier Inn. So.
Now, one of the things that we're really looking forward to, Vikki, you've talked about this as well, is when the worm tubs get emptied into the canal and we can all jump in for a wee bath.
So we don't do that anymore for environmental reasons.
Just so we're clear.
Yeah, we're all about sustainability.
If anyone that's listening.
Because actually,
that's what used to happen, though, I believe.
Yeah, that was part of the stories that we got. We were very lucky to, I would say, work with a lot of people at Falkirk, and they gave us so many informations and all these stories. And one of the ones was when the water was emptied from the worm tub condensers, the water would also be heated because of the heat from the coils. They would be charged into the canal, and then all the kids would jump into the canal and have their weekly bath or their monthly bath.
I mean, in Falkirk, I think a weekly bath. I'm surprised, but a weekly bath seems a bit much. But never mind. But I mean, in terms of Falkirk, but no.
Because you do have the canal. I mean,
your water source then isn't the canal, is it?
No, absolutely not.
Have you got?
Carron Valley Reservoir, which is the same as Glengoyne as well, and it's the same as tap water here in Falkirk.
So it's literally just tap water.
Local reservoir.
But that just speaks to how good the tap water is in Scotland, doesn't it?
The finest.
It's the finest, the best of gear.
Yeah.
So I think we need to talk about these worm tub condensers because. So how many distilleries in Scotland have one? Roughly, it's about 17 or 18, isn't
I would
it?
say I was just saying that to Graeme. I think it's about 17, including this one.
17 is the number I had in my head.
That's what I roughly had in my head from what I've
So,
decided.
and Ross, again,
how many?
How many of the 17
let's see, Old Pulteney,
give me a break.
Speyburn, This here,
Galway, Mortlack, Craigellachie, what have we got?
Arnold.
Courtney, what we do with the Dalwyn, Glendillan, Oban.
Vicky's
There's about
Vicky's
10.
good.
I'm at 10.
That'll do.
Yeah.
There they
I
go.
mean, what we can say is it's not a feature of every distillery.
No.
It's not something you're going to see.
It's traditional. That's what most distilleries used, was the warmed up condensers. They're invented by a German.
Yeah.
And most of the distilleries back in the day used warmed up condensers. They are expensive to run, so
Right.
the distilleries, when they all reopened, put in the shell and tube condensers. Famously, was it Dalwhinnie? There's another one. Dalwhinnie had warmed up condensers. They replaced them with shell and tube condensers, but their new make spirit was completely different. It didn't have the weight, it didn't have the body, so then they replaced it again with warmed up
And you can
condensers.
see why like new distilleries would do it, Ross, because what we tend to see more and more of with the new distilleries is this want to hark back to
Tradition.
traditional
Yeah.
distilling and production methods.
Yeah.
So it's like if you were a new distillery, you've got an opportunity to either go, well, at some point or other, like what you're saying, Vicky, about Dalwhinnie, is they decided it's probably more effective if we had shell and tube condensers, so let's get rid of them. But then realising, it maybe saved us a little bit of space and saved us that, but actually
But
it's
if-
cost us
Yeah.
more.
I think it's a great point. This is essentially a new distillery's new make.
Yeah.
But it's just steeped in tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's the interesting thing is when we see new distilleries, there has been that decision where it's like, do we go for the economic decision whereby what's the cheapest to run, what's the most efficient energy-wise as well as economically, or do we go for a decision that we know is going to produce a certain flavour or a certain
Well, there's another one.
characteristic?
Ballindallack, that's just reopened, and
Yes.
they've got the warm tubs.
There you go.
Craigenwood as
We're
well.
fast about 13 we're on now, Vicky.
But I mean, but again, not every new distillery has chosen, right, we need to go for worm tubs. Other new distilleries have chosen something else. So these are decisions that are getting made by, people setting up new distilleries, and it's a cost-benefit decision.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, obviously, that Rosebank have gone for that, but obviously you've got because you're basing yourself on that original spirit,
Yeah.
you've got that history of worm tub condensers, so really the decision could only have been to put the worm tubs back in.
Yeah.
So, where's next then?
Maturation, the warehouse.
Yes, please. Here we go.
It's very dark.
Here, so what I'll do is I'll just play the wee light show. I can show you,
A light
tell you
show?
what we're. You missed this.
Oh, I didn't have a light show.
We don't have a light. So over here,
Oh, there we go.
the end cask here, that's one of the last casks to be filled in 1993 before the distillery closed.
This is cool.
Ex-bourbon hogshead cask.
Oh, it's got JCAD written all over it.
Then the next one is going to appear. It's not going to be the one directly under the light. Again, far end of the row, you'll see it when the light's on fully. Our oldest cask in 1989. Cherry Butts. Good year here. I was born, so very special, I think.
Very good year.
And then the next one is going to be, I would say, the most special one we have here. The very first cask to be filled with the new reawakening Rosebank spirits. Just turned 2 a few weeks ago, so we've got another year to wait.
Oh.
Quite exciting. There's a light switch to come on.
There we are.
There we go.
Oh, there's Angus. There I am. Hey! Alright, so this is obviously a warehouse for show, as much as it could be. But
The casks are maturing
Yeah,
here.
the casks are
There's
maturing.
no.
It's just a very
There
small
is whiskey in the
amount.
cask.
Yes.
It is
There is
maturing.
whiskey in the cask, it is maturing. It's just being in the middle of the town, we did not have the space.
and
for
what
lots
would
of
what would
warehouses.
Rosebank originally have been doing? Would there have been bonded warehouses
Yeah.
within the town, or would
Yeah,
they
so
have
obviously the Beefeater across the road or Premier Inn, it was a warehouse.
Warehouse, yeah.
And then the flats to the back of the distillery were also warehouses
Right.
that have now been turned into flats. So they
Because-
did have a lot more space back then.
because this is the first probably trying to think about, being in a town.
Yes.
Glenmurray, I suppose, is in there. But
Oban is in
Yeah.
this town
but
as
just
well.
like even this brick building, you can see it doesn't feel at all like what a bonded warehouse should feel like.
No.
I've never had a light show in a bonded warehouse either.
And this
there-
is where,
there's a
an original warehouse once stood on this spot.
So this is
we've
where-
just rebuilt it on the same.
But you look here, right? Jake's back. This is where we find Jake, just nosing
Grab
bums. Right, Jake. I'll give you the. Have you had a chance to try anything that's in here, Jake?
Yeah, so we've actually quite recently we sampled everything old Rosebank that we owned. It's a very hard job, but yeah, we did a full sample analysis of every single old cask that we own.
Really?
And they mentioned that the oldest cask here is European oak sherry butt. You got a preference between bourbon Rosebank and sherry Rosebank?
I mean, everything has its place. Probably
That's the most
bourbon.
political answer.
Bourbon Rosebank is the classic form, though. You know.
It makes sense for the spirit.
Yeah. The sherry butts, they add great character, but they are thick, they are heavy, and they're old. So.
And I guess for you, considering the portfolio that you're working with, and Glengoyne and Tamdhu being predominantly European oak, now working with even these older Rosebanks must be fairly refreshing.
Yeah, it's a nice, very different style. Rosebank also has such a distinctive spirit, you know, even all the way through, even to the old stuff, where it is fundamentally Rosebank always, and I do think that shines the most in those sort of refill bourbon huggies.
Nice.
Yeah.
I have a wee question for you, Jay. Maybe just when Rosebank does start hitting that 3-year-old, are you looking forward to start blending that whiskey into anything that Ian McLeod produces blends? Or is it mostly going to be ending up as single malt, or do you have any idea?
Never say never, sort of anything's possible, I would say the plan from the get-go was to always do 100% Rosebank single malt, keep it as that, keep it all for that. If time comes to it and the stock, we want it for that reason, it's there for it, But the plan has always been to keep it all for single malt.
I think that we haven't done the full tour. You can see that this is now launched as one of these luxury whiskey experiences rather than a top dresser malt, for the blends. But it is interesting.
I think this is the first warehouse we've ever had a light show. Also,
Probably first warehouse they're working lights, to be honest.
and also, is that air conditioned? Is it aircon? Have we got? Is this because it's
temperature controlled to reduce loss? No.
Well, it's fairly cool in here. But normally a warehouse is cool. But I'm seeing over there. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, air-conditioned casks. That's pretty
I'm
decent.
not 100% sure if it's actually air conditioning. I think there is stuff in place. If it gets too hot, we can kind of control
Well,
it.
that's a big part of it, Jake, isn't it? I mean, when you're dealing with the oldest casks that Rosebank have, you've got to be very, very careful with the drop.
And I was actually looking, taking photos, because it looks like there's been some samples getting taken out of these top ones.
Well, there has been. So we were lucky.
You guys shouldn't have bothered. Honestly, you really shouldn't have, guys. That's
On
good.
the cast's second birthday, as a staff, got a little sample of the aged.
Brilliant.
Whiskey, the aged spirit. So it was so lovely. Obviously, that new make that you just know is still shining through quite a lot. It's only 2 years old, but you can tell it's starting to take on that little bit of character.
And you've kept some of that for us.
You can tell
I'm here for year 3.
If you look closely, there's on that Rosebank #1. That's a very new bung, so they clearly broke the bung that went in that before.
Oh, yeah.
in their process. The small things, the minor details.
So is that first kind of filling of Rosebank, is that in any particular wood to aid the maturation, or is it just
It's a
refill bourbon?
I think the one that we got to try was a first fill bourbon. That predominantly, I think most of these are refill casks.
Yeah, so we've obviously been filling a bit of everything, because it'd be stupid not to. But predominantly, we're trying to focus on refill, as it's always been. Refill barrels in particular are a pretty good bet for that, because it's a nice in-between of refill huggies take even longer to get on board, but that barrel is a little bit easier. But also been filling a fair share of first fills. Obviously, we do sherry everywhere, so you should be not to fill at least a bit of sherry in there.
Have you come across any aged Rosebank casks, not bourbon or sherry?
No.
Actually. Because it makes sense. Nobody was thinking about wine casks, I guess.
Well, no, when we were up at Glenmurray, you look at they were having.
But Glenmurray is a totally different whiskey.
No, but just the fact that at the time
There was Madeira casks in the kind of 20s and things.
There's always been wine casks used, but for something that was being used as a blending malt, it didn't make any sense for them to experiment with wood. So that's why I was curious.
Absolutely.
But no, there were wine casks before 2 years ago. For sure.
Right. Well, all this conversation and being in a warehouse has generated a thirst.
Let's do it.
Shall we go and try some whiskey?
Control the gates on the
Super.
canal
And yeah, this has been our little hub. So the table is a bit messy because we've been here since
Early this morning.
Podcast HQ.
Yes, exactly. But we a great tour, and you know, Claire, it's great to see everything that's going on at the distillery and things. But obviously, the distillery finishes with a dram. Now, the interesting thing is we've tried the new make, and as you mentioned earlier on in the warehouse, Rosebank doesn't have whiskey that they're offering. New whiskey that's coming out. There is the option on some of the tours where people get to try the Rosebank as well. So what tours do people get to try that on?
So the tours you can try a Rosebank on is Rosebank Discovered, which is £50 per person, and you get to try the Rosebank 32.
That's brilliant, by the way, in terms of value.
£50, incredible. The next one up from that is your Rosebank Rekindled, which is £95, and on that one you get to try a Glengoyne 18, a Tamdhu 18, along with a Rosebank 33-year-old, which is a distillery exclusive, so you can only get it here in the distillery.
Yeah,
and then you go up to your Revered, which is a 3-year-long experience, £300, and you get to sample 3 old Rosebanks.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing as well, as we've talked about, briefly mentioned about the Tamdhu residency that you've done with your dad.
Amazing
and
experience.
So there is the option where instead of having to travel all the way up, now Tamdhu's a closed distillery, so you don't have to travel all the way up to Tamdhu, which you wouldn't be able to get in
close
anyway.
to the public.
So you'd be able to get a close to the public, but you'd be able to get a chance. But also, we have in front of us a dram, lads, that whilst it's not the Rosebank, because we will be drinking that a little bit later on, we have a dram in front of us that is actually the first and only ever hand-fill exclusive Tamdhu ever in Scotland.
Yes.
And it's in the Rosebank Distillery in the shop. What have we got here?
So it's a 10-year-old Tamdhu, European cask. It's 55.7%. Cask strength.
Single cask.
Cask strength, Tamdhu, 10 years old.
That's amazing.
Fantastic.
Got a lot going on. I tried it the other day myself. It's spectacular.
Yeah,
Well,
the residency.
the residency, you've been on it.
If you're
Ross.
a fan of Tamdhu, the fact that you can come to Falkirk, you can come to Rosebank and experience Tamdhu is amazing.
But it's a tour you don't come home empty-handed on either, is it?
Exactly, you actually make your own Tamdhu, your own Tamdhu single malt, and leave with 20 cl of it. And also now that we can get our own hand-fill Tamdhu at the distillery, that's amazing. And I'm looking forward to getting quite a few of these hand-fills throughout the year.
Was it
because
£195 or something, is it?
Yeah,
£195.
£195.
Well, listen, lads, we've done it again. We've managed to convince somebody to let us into the distillery. We're getting free whiskey, so cheers. Here's to that. Let's try this.
Thanks for a great tour.
You're welcome.
Now,
Thank you very much.
Now, just go through the tour options for us then. Tell for the listeners who haven't been before.
We've got the Rosebank Reawakening, you said.
Yeah, the Reawakening is the one I didn't mention there. You don't get to try Rosebank on that. It is the £25, 90-minute long tour, half an hour tasting, and you get to try our 2 sister distilleries, Glengoyne, Tamdhu, and the Rosebank Remake at the end.
Yeah.
Great.
Just for a price point, makes it accessible for everybody.
Yeah.
And then you go up to that Discovered one I told you about, your Rekindled, then up to your Tamdhu Residency, and then your Revered.
Yeah,
so
now
we've got something for everybody.
And the great news is, as well, for people who listen to the Whisky Stories podcast, the fantastic listeners, Facebook group members, YouTube subscribers, and subscribers to the newsletter. You guys have been very, very good to us, and we get to come here, we get taken around by yourselves, we get to drink some lovely drams and stuff like that. But we're sharing the love because you have given us our own dedicated discount code for your tours for our listeners. So WSP15, use WSP15, you're going to get 15% off the tours. Now, the only tour you won't get a discount on is the Rosebank Revered, which is £300 per person, but 25% off the Rosebank Reawakening, £25. Angus, do the maths. How much the discount is that?
Ooh,
a good bit. Rosebank Discovered Tour. So £50 per person is great value if you're getting a Rosebank on. I mean, what's a Rosebank retailing at just now?
So Rosebank 32 will retail at £2,100 a bottle.
£2,100 a bottle?
Yeah. So getting this for £50 is...
what would you? If we were to do a sip it, score it, 60-second whiskey review on a Rosebank, and that was to say cost for a bottle, was it 2,000?
2,100.
Right.
32
cost for a dram. What are you looking at?
So I have the Rosebank 32 in the Balmoral. The reason this is the best value tour for high-end whiskey, it's 140 quid for a dram in the Balmoral.
£140.
And by the way,
we don't get a discount code on that one.
Just give me a second. That's also the cheapest by the dram anywhere for Rosebank 32. So the fact that you can come and get a tour, £50 tour, 15% off of Whisky Stories, and experience the closed Rosebank That's pretty cool, and actually it's much better value than I ever would have thought.
Yeah.
So the fact is, so
You just done yourself out of business there, Ross, basically.
but then the Rosebank rekindled,
Yeah.
£95 per person.
It also comes with a chocolate pairing as well.
Nice.
Brilliant.
So you get a chocolate pairing
Yeah.
with the Glengoyne 18 and Tamdhu 18.
Brilliant.
Not the Rosebank, because we really want that Rosebank
Yeah,
to
of
shine
course.
on its own.
And that's a 33-year-old.
Yeah, distillery exclusive.
Rosebank
It
you're getting
retails
there.
at £3,200 a bottle,
Wow.
so £95.
Yeah.
It's an absolute bargain. And what a tour, what a place. Dead easy to get
Thanks
to.
so much for the
Claire,
tour,
thank
Claire.
you.
You're very
Brilliant.
welcome.
It's
Really
been
enjoyed
great,
it.
and thanks to Vikki as well for
enjoyed
taking
it.
a day off and coming to spend some time with us. It's been fantastic, guys. Don't forget, like and share. You'll get on the Facebook group. We'll be passing pass the pod around. We'll be passing that Whisky Stories Podcast official discount code, 15% off. I can't stress to you enough the value in that, and also cracking dram here. The Tamdhu experience on the discount code as well. You chuck that in for us, eh? You'll chuck that in for us as well, won't you? Aye, there we go. Aye.
It's also worth saying, if you do make it to the Rosebank Distillery, please send us a photo, put it on the Facebook group. We want to see it. We want to see your experience. You go and get your selfie with Claire before it absolutely reaches Hollywood after this podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Give us 5-star. Join the Facebook group. Graeme, anything else?
Absolutely. Well, we've got a big day ahead of us. But anyway, listen, guys. Slanjavar, thank you very much. Cheers.